Thank you for watching today's video. When I originally filmed this segment, I was planning on making a video that covered my top 10 favorite recorded musicians. The top 10 musicians whose recordings influenced me in my early teens to become a professional musician. Well, after I had edited the segment on my number one, French pianist Alfred Cortot, I realized if I followed my original plan, the video would end up being 3 hours long. So I decided to just tackle one interesting musician in each video, along with excerpts from recordings that were very memorable for me as a youngster. So without further ado, let's dive in. If you do enjoy these videos, be sure to like and subscribe, and also consider supporting this channel either through my Patreon page at www.patreon.com/independentpianist, or you can make a donation through PayPal. My PayPal link is in the description box below. Or by becoming a student. If you're interested in studying with me online, just send me a message at cole@independentpianist.com. Thank you. So I also wanted to give a little shout out to my current supporters on Patreon and PayPal. You might have noticed in the last video and also this week that my audio quality from my spoken segments has jumped way up. And that's because I was able to invest in a new microphone for my spoken segments. So thank you for your support. It's exactly what it allows me to do, is to not only invest my time, but also to invest in better materials so that the content I bring you can be better. So thank you very much for your continued support. It's hard to choose my number one preferred pianist from history, but it would probably end up being a two-way tie between the great Russian pianist Sergei Rachmaninoff and the pianist we're looking at today, Alfred Cortot. Cortot was a French pianist, conductor, editor, teacher. He was a tireless, all-around musician. Despite being French, his style at the piano did not really accurately portray what was generally accepted as the French school. There were other pianists like Margaret Long, Robert Casadessus, and Vlado Perlmutter, who were much more representative of this kind of pristine, clean, scintillating kind of style. Cortot had a much more German-influenced style that was very grandly romantic, very daring, and at times almost willfully eccentric. He took risks and liberties with the scores that he played that few musicians, even in his own day, dared to take. So, for example, listen to the opening of the last movement of the Schumann Concerto. First, we'll hear a more standard performance by Claudio Arrau that stays close to the original text, and then Cortot's superbly amplified version. might argue that it's excessive. The sweep, though, and the power of his playing in this and many other places is kind of hard to argue with. His interpretations are always very striking an individual like this, very persuasive, even when he was less than 100% solid from a pianistic perspective. He was a very busy musician and he didn't always have time to practice, so there are oftentimes lapses, wrong notes. He was famous for memory slips in live performances as well, and some of those are even on his recordings. The truth is that when Cortot was in form, though, he was an impressive pianist. In fact, he even impressed a young Vladimir Horowitz to no end with his performance of the Etude in forme de valse by Camille Saint-Saëns, which still to this day I've never heard another pianist match him in, not even great virtuosi like Cifra. His wonderful performing editions of Chopin and Liszt and others abound in fascinating fingerings, exercises, and musical and technical solutions to various problems. So I really recommend taking a look at those. They make wonderful practical editions. And as a conductor, among other things, he was one of the first musicians to really champion the big Wagner music dramas in France. He conducted the premiere in Paris of Götterdämmerung from the Ring Cycle in 1902. That's what he first became famous for, and that probably had an influence on forming his piano style, which was, as I mentioned, so big-boned and romantic. On the other hand, he also made the first recording of the complete Brandenburg concertos by Bach, a recording that's still really wonderful to listen to, especially number 5, in which Cortot plays the solo harpsichord part on piano with marvelous effect. Recordings of his that I really cherish, I would like to highlight his recording of Chopin's Concerto No. 2 in F minor, in which he reorchestrates Chopin's rather uninspired orchestration to great effect, and he plays a really beautiful slow movement. It's a Chopin slow movement like none other. also, I'm very attached to a series of recordings that he made with the English soprano Maggie Teyte. And Maggie Teyte is not well remembered now, but she was the very first Melisande in Debussy's opera Pelléas and Melisande, and prepared that role with Debussy himself, to Debussy's evident satisfaction. Well, Cortot accompanies her in the most sophisticated, suave way possible, and takes the usual remarkable liberties that almost always pay off. So, for example, in La Faune, in the second book of the Fête galantes, he seems to have probably gotten a page turner, maybe an assistant of some kind, to cover the bass strings of the piano with their hands to get this marvelous percussive effect in the bass. I won't go into why it might be worth defending Cortot from the charge of anti-Semitism that he sometimes gets leveled against him. He did collaborate in a minor kind of way with the occupation government, the Vichy government, during World War II. But mostly he seems to have been pretty much unaware of political matters, and there are reasons why he may not have been such a terrible anti-Semite as some made him out to be. But that's too complicated a topic to go into. As a musician, at least, he does remain at my top #1 spot. So thank you for watching that video. I hope it gives you some inspiration for recordings to listen to. We're really in a wonderful place, you know, in the present day, because we can hear all these great artists from the past. And of course, as wonderful as contemporary artists are, you can never duplicate what someone from the past did exactly. They have their own unique personalities. And also, it provides a kind of a link to understanding how people played in decades and centuries past. So stay tuned. I'll be continuing this series soon. Till next time.